Hello, this video is somewhat of a follow-up from my previous solo video where I decided if I couldn't solo a fight, I'd attempt it with a duo. And I did make the mistake of not thoroughly testing these three fights and claiming they just weren't possible until it was pointed out to me. So I do apologize for that, but I thought why not make duoing a series as well? So for this video, you don't need to watch my previous solo video, and I'll just show here what I claimed wasn't possible with a duo, but also if something is soloable, then it also means it can obviously be done with a duo. So for this challenge, we had two strategies or two setups. One job with a Resurrect and one job without. In our case, that was Paladin and White Mage. And then we had the other setup that was two jobs with a Resurrect, which was Red Mage and White Mage. These are two essential setups that you'll need before attempting these fights. And just for clarity's sake, my Paladin was best in slot, and my Red Mage and duo's White Mage were in full item level 740 crafted gear. I believe all of these were possible from previous tier best in slots, but having full crafted from this patch does make things a lot more comfortable. Also, this might come across as a guide-like, but consider it more like a guide light. I'm not trying to make this a guide, I'm just trying to make an informative video. Anyway, let's begin with the trial, which is Seat of Sacrifice Extreme. For most mechanics, we just kind of spread out and didn't put much thought into it until the ad phase, which is where the magic happens. So normally after killing both ads here, you'll tank Limit Break free through his ultimate attack. It's hard-coded as the only way to survive this damage, but with only two people, well, we have no LB. So the way about this is with Resurrect cheese. So let's start from the beginning. What we do here is we each take an ad and drag them to a corner. Make sure one dies and keep the other one alive. In this case, we kept the Dark Knight alive. Then once these dragons spawned, my duo would grab at least 3 out of the 4 tethers, and this will ensure he dies to them and that I survive. Then I'll resurrect him, and earlier, some towers did actually go off, which we couldn't take, and this gives us a damage down, and they stack up, so it actually prevents us from doing damage to the Dark Knight. So this is what the first death is sort of for. When my duo resurrects, they'll wait for the Dark Knight to kill me, and then kill the Dark Knight and resurrect me. And this is where the important timing comes into play. I am not accepting this resurrect straight away, I am waiting until the Warrior of Light does his forward flip. And this is the moment to accept the raise and avoid the instant killing raid wide. After that, it's back to normal, spreading for mechanics and not really putting much thought into it. As long as we can survive through the damage, the rest is pretty easy to get through, and it only took us about 6 minutes per clear, which is actually not bad if you're just wanting to farm the mount with one friend, and take the time to learn how to deal with the ad phase, and over the course of doing this, you'll deal with the mechanics more and you'll learn how to avoid more damage downs. Anyway, next up is EAS's Shiva. For this one, we went Paladin and White Mage. And the reason for that is the ad phase. Before the ad phase, the fight isn't too bad. It might take some getting used to just to avoid some damage downs. And sadly, Light Rampant is just a period of forced downtime, as you cannot take every tower or you'll reach 5 stacks and then wipe. And you can't take 2 towers at once as they are 2-player towers. So you may as well just let them all go off and get the damage downs. They don't stack anyway, so yeah. We also just ignored these orbs because, yeah, they're just more damage down, so who cares. After Light Rampant, we got into the ad phase, and this is where things get really dicey, and is my biggest reasoning for going Paladin. This phase does a few bursts of maximum health percentage damage, so you can't really mitigate the damage except with shields, and the tethers that need to be taken just do a lot too, because you get a debuff, and then that debuff lasts throughout the entire phase. So having the on-demand heal from Clemency made this a lot more comfortable. It might be doable as another tank, but you'd have to be on point with your mitigation. As for White Mage, it did struggle quite a bit through this as opposed to something like a shield healer, but as you can see, it is doable. Killing the ads themselves in this phase isn't really an issue either, they just kind of drop dead from a few GCDs, but just getting through it alive is the hard part, and it might take you a few runs just to get practice down and sort out your mitigation. After ad phase, our next hard hitter was Akmon, and this is intended to be a split group stack, but there's only 2 of us, so we both need to solo the group stacks each. If you stack them up, it'll do a lot more damage, so you can't do that. Because I'm a tank, this generally doesn't really do much damage to me, but my White Mage, however, it does hurt a lot. And that's another reason I ran Paladin for this, so I can give my duo an intervention with Rampart up, I can give them Divine Veil, and I can give them Passage of Arms, if I didn't do it so drunkenly. And they also have their wings up, so they take a lot less damage through this, just because I'm running Paladin more or less. After that, she'll cast a Mourner Far, which was also intended to be a group stack. After you took the Akmons, you would come together for the Mourner Far, but I just decided to take this solo to avoid any more damage on my White Mage. After that, there is one more mechanic that we need to get creative with, and that is Worm's Lament. This will give my duo and myself a red and blue debuff, and a dragon head will spawn north. Whoever has the shortest red debuff will pop the dragon head first, and whoever has the shortest blue debuff will then pick up the puddle, which is dropped by the dragon head being popped. And then we'll cleanse the remaining debuffs. Whoever has the remaining red and blue will pop and then cleanse. The problem here is popping the dragon head with the red debuff makes you take significantly less damage from it, but it needs to be popped 4 times to get rid of it, so it doesn't enrage. But it turns out a tank can just do the last 2 pops with ease. It'll do a fair amount of damage, but nothing a tank can't handle. And this will get rid of the head, and then you can carry on like normal. There's a few other mechanics here, but they're mostly just about avoiding damage downs, and we killed her before she could do anything significant again. If you see this mechanic where we killed her, just dodge her hallowed wings by going behind her, and both of you should head towards the green mirror and just have your tank in front of it, pop some defensives, and you should then get pushed back into the red mirror. Again, have the tank in front and you'll be fine. For us, each clear of this took about 9 to 10 minutes, so if you really want those glamours or just want the challenge, then it's not a bad way of going about it with just 2 players. I think you might be able to do this with 2 healers, if one of those healers is a barrier healer, but I have not tested it myself, but I can see it being possible. All the barrier healer would need to do is just shield spam themselves for the head popping, just like a tank would mitigate for it. So I think it is possible. It is going to take more time with 2 healers, but it would also be more safe. Anyway, finally, we have E12S. And this one was an absolute nightmare of figuring stuff out, but we did manage to get it in the end, and we even went through the effort of learning the 2 setups that you can do for this fight. 1 Resurrect and 2 Resurrects. It's a lot more comfortable with 2 Resurrects, but it is doable with just 1, which we'll show. So let's begin with phase 1 and 1 Resurrect, which was Paladin and White Mage. Now, I'm not going to go over every mechanic because this is not a guide, but I will be going over mostly the things you need to be aware of. Learning what the primals do is something you can figure out, okay? Although I do want to point out the Tank Buster hurts non-tanks quite a bit, so make sure your healing is on point for this, especially if you get Titan spreads before the Tank Buster, because these are actually like party stacks and you have to take them solo, so they hurt a lot. Anyway, the main deal here is the Titan phase, where a bunch of these bombs will spawn and you cannot get rid of them. So as a tank, you just need to mitigate through this. As the healer, well, this is kind of where it stops for you. We did actually manage to keep my duo alive for the first set of bombs, but then had nothing for the third set, so it might be possible to stay here alive as a healer, but we didn't put much thought into it. After Titan, the tank will be soloing the rest of the fight, but the boss should be at a low percentage by now, so it's quite doable. Nothing really hurts until the stack, which I used Hallowed for, and then the ads will start blasting. I take the first beam with not much, and afterwards I start using my mitigation. Then make sure not to get knocked off the edge by the boss, and remember what she stocked. And at this point, she should be pushed. If not, she'll do a tank buster, which I'd have Guardian for, and if she's still not pushed by then, it would be lines that I wouldn't honestly know how to handle. Maybe I'd have to save Guardian and only use Early Sheltron for the tank buster. I don't know, but you should have her pushed by this point. Anyway, if we have 2 Resurrects in this phase, it's a bit different, but a lot quicker. Things are obviously going to hurt more, and Titan phase will be handled differently, as the boss is casting Earthen Fury. Just before entering Titan phase, the healer will jump off. You can do this the moment you take damage from Earthen Fury, then the other player will need to resurrect them. Don't accept this resurrect until the bombs start glowing or just before. If done correctly, the other player will die and the healer will be back up. Then heal through the second set of bombs as the bombs don't go off and only the marker, then resurrect the dead player, and the same deal here. Don't accept the resurrect until the third set of bombs start glowing or just before. The healer will then die and the resurrected player will need to resurrect the healer ASAP. So having lucid dreaming up here is pretty important. And at this point, we saw another set of primal mechanics and pushed the boss. If you do see the beams here, well, you probably need a barrier healer to get through it, but you can get through it with a barrier healer. Anyway, let's go back to 1 Resurrect and phase 2. Pretty much do everything normal up to the point of basic relativity, which, by the way, this hurts a lot, so make sure to have enough health for this. Preferably be full, because I believe it does percentage damage based on your maximum HP. Then what you have to do is put your hands together and pray that you get Dark Blizzard and not Dark Fire, because if you get Dark Fire, you'll just have to wipe and go again, as both players will just get doomed from their beams and Dark Fire, which is annoying, but it's a 50-50, so it's not the worst thing in the world, and it's pretty early into the fight. If you do get Dark Blizzard, great. Find the yellow traffic light and then use that as the new north. Have one player go right of it and one player go left of it. Bait the first beam, which will always be the yellow tethered traffic lights, and then converge middle, and we had me cover my duo, which dooms me, and my duo then resurrects me. Then they take the last set of beams, and they get doomed, and they die, and that leaves me to finish the rest of the fight. And there isn't much more here that's really noteworthy. Just stay away from your duo's body during any set of debuffs. Mitigate the tank busters and group stacks, those being the Black Halo and Shell Crusher. Make sure to have enough health for any relativity cast, and don't get caught off by the knockback after Darkest Dance during Triple Apocalypse. Otherwise, just try to avoid dodgeable AoEs to not get damage downs, and the fight is pretty much free. And even if you do get some damage downs, you'll probably still get through it as long as you don't get instantly killed. Lastly, we have phase 2 with 2 Resurrects. Again, this is a bit different, but much faster and easier. We do everything normal, and I pretty much act as a tank as a red mage, and for the basic relativity, we handle the first base like previously, but after that, we do it a little bit differently here. So whoever is dying first will go to the untethered traffic light, and whoever is dying to the last set of beams will go to the purple tethered traffic lights, as these are the slowed down ones. As my duo dies from doom, I resurrect them, get doomed myself, and then they resurrect me. Then we carry on like normal, but we somewhat have to respect some mechanics here. During single apocalypse, we just take the Black Halo together, but we also take the Shell Crusher as 2 players, as this is a stack, and we move middle together. Then I moved either left or right, depending on what is safe, as there is the Spirit Taker cast, and this is a spread. And if you get hit by this and you aren't the targeted player, you'll just go flying off the arena. Then for Intimate Relativity, we stayed middle a little bit for some healing, and then went north and south and just planted. Damage here isn't much. Just make sure both yourself and your duo are healthy. Then the boss is pretty much dead. If not, she doesn't do anything much more here, so even if you do see a few extra mechanics, it's nothing you can't handle as 2 players. And yeah, that is 3 fights that you can duo, but probably shouldn't. That said, Sea of Sacrifice and EAS aren't that bad, but the RNG with E12S can be really frustrating, as you have to hope it's Dark Blizzard and not Dark Fire, and it's a 50-50, but sometimes it feels like a 75-25 in favor of Dark Fire. Still, the glamours from E12S are some of my favorite, so I wouldn't say you definitely shouldn't do it, but yeah. Also, doing Sea of Sacrifice with only 2 players will make mount farming probably quicker because you only have 2 players that need the mount at that point. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to do all the YouTube things, and if you'd like to support the channel further, check out my Patreon where you can get all sorts of additional perks like voting on upcoming videos, early access to videos, and your name and credits like this. And I do want to say this is probably a series that I'll take further and try to do some Endwalker stuff and see how that goes. So I hope that's something you can look forward to. But with that said, I will see you in the next one. Until then, take it easy and goodbye.